Aloha buddies, it's Concert Buddy, firing this quick video off as a contest entry for CGCVINYLGUY Christian, his 60th birthday video in celebration of such a big life milestone, hitting 60. Christian had asked to show some records from when you were 6 years old. So I kind of had to go back to the memory banks and figure out when that was, 1985. And then what records or albums were released in 1985. And I've seen some of the other videos that have already been published for this contest, and it looks like you're getting great support, Christian, which I think speaks to what a great dude you are. But more so, I'm kind of jealous because I'm going to be honest, 1985 for albums, solid, but not some of the heaters that I'd seen, like 1983 and some other stuff. But anyway, so I found some records that from 1985, and we're going to file them out right now.
It is just perfect!
So first up is Whitney Houston's self-titled debut album, 1985 release. I still have the hype sticker on this one. I think I got this one at a cheapie sale years ago. But obviously Whitney Houston, a tour de force with that voice, a tremendous performer, some real big hits. On this one, you've got Thinking About You, How Will I Know? That was a really popular one. I do remember from being a little squirt, hearing that one, seeing the video on MTV, that sort of thing. So obviously tragic what happened to Whitney Houston years and years later, but what a tour de force when she first debuted. I think Clive Davis discovered her. But anyway, Whitney Houston's self-titled album number 1. Album number 2 on this contest entry is Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair. Probably, if not their biggest album, one of their top 2 biggest albums. You have some bangers, like Shout, and then probably, in my opinion, their most important or probably most popular song, commercially popular song, is Everybody Wants to Rule the World. This album, not super hard to find, but also not super easy to find. I see it on occasion here and there. I think I have a copy or two. Usually you see it with some ring wear here. These darker color jackets tend to show ring wear, especially with age, but this is a pretty good copy. I would like to point out that this dude right here got a wicked unibrow going. So 85, no shame in the game for unibrows. Anyway, record number 2. All right, record number 3 on this list is John Mellencamp, Scarecrow. I know it says John Cougar Mellencamp, but I think this is the album that really took him past the John Cougar Mellencamp phase. This really showed a maturity and a real leap forward with his songwriting. Obviously, a kind of autobiographical album in the sense that John being from Indiana, born and raised, roots in the Midwest and the heartland. There's a lot of songs about farmers and their struggle and plight, especially in the 80s. If you think of things that kind of came out of the 80s, like Farm Aid, you know, the series of concerts that have gone on since the 80s to help raise awareness and raise funding for America's farmers, that sort of thing. Some of my favorite songs on this album include Small Town, goodness gracious, obviously the title track, well, Rain on the Scarecrow, I guess is kind of a title track, and then obviously ROCK in the USA. To me, this really was a big, again, leap forward for John, not just in his songwriting, but taking him seriously, because up to this point, he had been kind of like a pin-up pop kind of guy. Not saying he wasn't taken seriously, but just known more for his looks than his hooks when it comes to the songwriting. But this really put him in an arena with, like, say, Springsteen or a lot of guys who are really putting some work into the actual craft of the art they're creating. So, album number 3. All right, album number 4 is Phil Collins, No Jacket Required. Still have this copy in the shrink, the hype. Got the old, I think it's what, Sound Warehouse? Yeah, Sound Warehouse sticker from back in the day. Now, don't let that 1986 fool you. This just means when they got it. I did double check. I was a little worried when I saw this at first, but it is a 1985 album. And I picked this one because probably my favorite Phil Collins song of his entire catalog, solo, soundtracks, like Tarzan thing, or even like his work with Genesis, his studio. I'm not even going to try to sing it because I don't want to ruin anybody's ears or their morning, evening, afternoon when you're watching this. But, obviously, One More Night, that ballad, not really one of my favorite Phil Collins songs. Don't Lose My Number, I really enjoyed that song. But, and then Take Me Home, a very like anthemic, very high energy type of song. Very similar to like some like later Van Halen stuff they did with Sammy Hagar, but I digress. So album number 4, Phil Collins, No Jacket Required. And the last record I'm going to show as part of this contest video for Christian, CGC Vinyl Guy, is Behind the Sun, Eric Clapton, the wanker himself. I am an Eric Clapton fan. I try to separate a lot of my music fandom, oftentimes with, disagreements maybe politically or economically or what have you. Eric Clapton's no exception. One of the greatest guitar players of all time. I'll fight you.
Wow, listen to that statement.
Not really. But I've always enjoyed slow hand stuff, his solo stuff, Cream, Yardbirds. He's been all over the place, right? But this album is not one of his bigger commercial hits. Now, if you recall, or if you're familiar with his catalog, the 80s, he continued to be just a tremendous guitar player, but also added a lot of era-specific sounds, a lot of synth keyboards, that sort of thing. This album, heavy with that. When I think of like 80s Clapton, I think of like the Color of Money soundtrack. It's in the way that you use it. It's always kind of like when I think 80s Clapton. But this album has some of those very similar type songs. She's Waiting is one that comes to mind. Forever Man also. And side note, the previous album I showed Phil Collins actually produced this album, which I thought was pretty wild. But an album that's easy to find, not real hard. Usually, I don't know, I've seen my copies that I've seen in my area or at shows or fairs or what have you seem to have like water damage. So I don't know if people were just so disgusted with the sounds of this album that they just spit up the drink they were listening to or what have you when they're playing this. But this one's in pretty good shape overall.
I've been cracking myself up. I don't care who laughs. I cracked myself up.
And that's it. Christian, happy birthday to you, sir. Sorry this is coming a little late. I think this is the week your contest is due, so I'm going to try to get this off and add them to you soon. But anyway, thank you for your support of my channel, Christian. Happy birthday. 60 is no joke, man. Especially, I've been watching your channel for a hot minute, and I know that you've been very open with some of your health challenges over the years. So the fact that you're making this video, you're in the VC, and you've reached 60, kudos to you, brother. Anyway, buddies, that's all I got. Thank you for taking your time. Wish Christian a happy birthday, either on his channel, comments below, where you see fit. And until next time, when you get the chance, just spin it. See ya.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Well, we out of time.